Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and hi, my name is Nur Farhana binti Kamar Zaman, and today my group and I will present to you about Region 1, which is the Europe, and I was assigned to present to you about the history and culture of Europe. And for my part, I will touch the subtopic of the rise of European global power, the Europe after 1945, and the organization in Europe. For the subregion, I will present about the Western Europe countries. Hope you enjoy.
Assalamualaikum everyone. My name is Shafi Idlam bin Faisal, and I will be explaining to you about the migrations of people in which there is a few cultural groups consist of Greeks, Romans, Celts, Slavic and Germanic people. And then I will be explaining to you about the northern of Europe and the east central of Europe.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to Sir Shazeh and to all my fellow friends. I hope you guys are doing fine during this RMO. So, my name is Muhammad Imam bin Zuhaili and I will be presenting about the Europe. So, in Europe, I will be presenting about the 3 climates in Europe and 3 environmental problems in Europe, and also 3 economic activities in Mediterranean Europe. I hope you guys will be enjoy the presentation. So let's start with region 1, Europe. So this is our group members, which the last one is me, Aiman, and my handsome friend Shafidulan, and my beautiful friend Farhana. So let's move to the next slide. So this is the big world map that I found in the Google. So as you can see here, there are many countries that really exist in the world, such as Canada, Brazil, United States, Australia, China, and many more. But those countries that I said is not a European countries. So where is the European countries? The European countries is located in the circle one, in the area that I circle one. I bet you guys can see, but I will show you the bit to see what is the countries in the Europe. So this is the map of entire Europe. So as you can see, there is many countries also in the Europe, such as Sweden and Germany, France, Italy, Ukraine, and many more. So all these countries will be divided in about 4 subregions, which is Western Europe, Northern Europe, Mediterranean Europe, and East Central Europe. So these 4 subregions will be explained later. So you guys just see where all these European countries located. Okay, next. So this is the introduction of Europe. Okay, so Europe is a hot for many contemporary global ideas and practices, which includes democracy, colonialism, capitalism, and many more. So you guys want to know about the practices like colonialism, capitalism? Then Farhana will be explain this after this under the rise of European global power. Okay. Next is European also made such a scientific discoveries of something that extraordinary, as the Earth being spherical and revolving around the Sun, genetic science, the theory of evolution, and many more. Okay, so next is European inventions include movable types for printing press, as well as microscope, telescope, automobile, digital computer, and many more. If you guys want to know what is this movable type, you guys can Google it, and it will show you the photos of these items. So have you guys been heard about Industrial Revolution? Okay, so the Industrial Revolution It begin in European radically, altering Europe's economy and society. After that, they are making similar dramatic changes in the other world region. So, this industrial revolution will be explained by Farna after this. So, wait, okay? And European also uses technologies to explore and gain more material wealth from abroad. Okay, you can see European countries making far in front of our country because they have many modern technology and better technology. So that's why they are in front of our country. So with that, they will get more wealth from abroad. Okay, be explaining about the climate in Europe. So you guys know what is climate? Okay, so climate is the usual condition of the temperature, humidity, rainfall, wind, and other meteorological elements in an area of the Earth surface for a long time. For easy say, climate is the average condition for about 30 years. And I want you guys to know what is different between climate and weather. Because climate and weather are different. Weather is the day-to-day condition in the atmosphere. So, how does the climate change in Europe? Climate change in Europe because of the ecosystem decline, loss of biodiversity, stratospheric ozone depletion, and many environmental problems that happen in Europe that make the climate changes. Okay, so we move to the next slide, which is the first climate is oceanic temperature climates. Common to the western countries are oceanic temperature climates, which the range from southern Norway to much of Spain. And the storms also from the Atlantic Ocean brings rainfall through the year. And the temperature rarely drop below freeze to winter, which is about -1 to 4 degrees Celsius, and it becomes very hot in summer with 15 to 27 degrees Celsius. And since the mid-1990s, waters from the North Atlantic Drift have cooled and slowed, possibly from the melting of the Greenland ice cap. The temperature has started and begun to drop, and they may have the long-term climate effects. So you can see in the picture the Porquerolles Island in France. Such a nice view. Okay, next is the subtropical winter rain climates. So the other name for this climate is Mediterranean climates. It's same. Okay, this climate dominates in the far south along the Mediterranean Sea coastline, where a seasonal shift always occurs. And when in winter, the mid-latitude belt of cyclones moves southward and bringing a rain and wind. However, the temperature usually constant and stay above freezing point, which is 4 to 10 degrees Celsius. And when in summer, hot from the Sahara to the south creates drought-like condition and high temperature, which is 21 to 27 degrees Celsius. So you can see the view of Croatia's greenest island. So next is the continental temperature climate, which is the last climate, and the simple climate. So this climate of the Central and Eastern Europe, winters can be severe as cold, which bring freezing temperatures, especially farther to the east. Summers are warmer than on the coast, and always marked by the thunderstorm. So, I will give you some additional information. At the end of the Pleistocene Ice Age, about 10,000 to 15,000 years ago, climatic conditions warmed and the ice sheet, which has extended as far south as the Thames River Valley in England and the plains of northern Germany and Poland, have melted and retreated northward. So, the climate throughout Europe got warmer until some 5,000 years ago, when they reached their warmest point during the Roman time. And the cooling in 1300s had much to do disappearance of European colonies in the Greenland. And since the mid 1800s, the retreating glaciers in alpine valleys have influenced the tourist industry and the generation of hydroelectricity. Explaining about the environmental problems in Europe, which have three. Which the first one is impacts of industrialization, second is energy sources, and the third one is Mediterranean Sea. Okay, let's start. The first one is impacts of industrialization. The Industrial Revolution and the speed of factory concentrated production led to widespread pollution of the rivers and air. So many rivers lost their fish stock. So the major pollution incidents still kill fish in the major rivers such as the Rhine. In the Thames rivers of England, the reduction of pollution was so successful that the fish stocks was revived in the 1990s after of the decades of absence. Next is the thermal power stations. Burning coal emits sulfur and nitrogen compound that lead to the acid deposition, which is known as the acid rain. And this acid rain affected the coniferous forests on thin soils and shallow lakes in the Alps and Scandinavia. And the highest level of acid pollution occurred is during the communist era along the Czech, Polish, East German borders in area known as the Black Triangle. Beginning in the 1990s, this acid rain and its effect were reduced greatly, and all the alpine forests successful to be recovered. Even as industrial pollution has declined, but the number of trucks and the car and all automobile has grown up. So the second one is energy sources. So in this case, domestic coal is the main source of energy until the 1950s. In late 1952, it provided about 90% of energy needed in the United Kingdom and 92% in Germany. Home-produced coal declined rapidly after 1955. By 1972, oil supplied about 65% of the subregion's energy needs, while coal was reduced or decreased to 22%, which mostly used to generate electricity. And the oil price shocks in the 1970s raised the oil price tenfold. This gave a boost to exploration and production in the North Sea basin. In the North Sea oil and gas fields, production continued to rise in the 1990s, and the exploration shifted west of the northern British Isles. Natural gas became the cheapest and the cleanest fuel for electricity generators in the mid-1980s. While Russia is willing to supply Europe with its energy needs, many of Europeans are concerned about the level of control over Europe that this will give to Russia. Other than that, nuclear power also very significant in this case. And the nuclear energy contribute about 30% of the European Union, which is EU, in 2009, and it contributes the greatest percentage of electricity in Lithuania, which is 76%, followed by France 75%, Slovakia 54%, and Belgium 52%. The use of nuclear power could have grown if the safety issues and the disposal of radioactive waste had been addressed. In recent years, the nuclear power industry was successfully in promoting the nuclear power again, but the devastating nuclear accident that happened at Fukushima Daiichi Nuclear Power Station resulted from an earthquake and tsunami had alarmed the public once again. Then, Germany decided to shut down many of its nuclear power plants. Though more nuclear power plants are being planned and built, Europe actually decommissioned more nuclear capacity than it installed in 2009. Of all the new electricity generating capacity installed in Europe in 2009, which is 39%, was wind energy, and natural gas 25%, and solar photovoltaics about 17%. And the wind generated electricity only account for 4.2% of Europe's electricity. In addition, the windy west coast is the best location for windmills, and the greatest amount of wind generated electricity in Germany, which is 26,400 megawatt, followed by Spain 19,500 megawatt, and Italy 5,300 megawatt, and Denmark only 3,700 megawatt. So you can see in the picture, this is the nuclear accident in Fukushima that the nuclear power had to be shut down in Germany. And this is the windmill in Italy. Last environmental problem is Mediterranean Sea. Because of population growth in the 1900s, combined with crowding into coastal location, industrialization, and the great increase in tourism, it leads to excessive pollution of the Mediterranean Sea. And the Mediterranean Sea is one of the world's major shipping lanes, which carrying about 28% of world seaborne oil traffic and has the world's highest level of oil pollution. It is an almost closed sea with a single narrow connection to the Atlantic Ocean at Gibraltar, and it takes about 80 to 150 years for Mediterranean to be completely renewed by the Atlantic Ocean. Confined within the Mediterranean, the chemicals and the other nutrients from pollution decay and thereby deplete the sea's oxygen, killing the sea life and creating large algae blooms that thrive in the anaerobic conditions. And the most polluted European areas of the sea are those near to the urban industrial areas such as Barcelona, Marseilles, and Athens. And the tourists always arrive in July to August when water is short supply and local sewerage system find that it is hard to cope. The tourism and the movement to the coastal areas are growing. In 1975, governments around the Mediterranean Sea met and developed the Mediterranean Action Plan (MAP) to tackle the pollution problems. Through MAP, the Barcelona Convention was adopted, requiring countries to reduce their pollution emission. The sewage treatment has been improved in the wealthier countries such as France, but the poorer countries such as North Africa, which also pollute the Mediterranean, cannot be able to afford the necessary investment. Growing population, industrial projects increase the pollution, prompting 6 additional protocols and the need to amend the Barcelona Convention in 1995. Even though if pollution is reduced as countries become wealthier, the coastline and its delicate ecosystem are changed irrevocably when coastal wetlands are reclaimed are built over.
Hello, my name is Shafi Faisal, and I will be explaining about the history and culture of Europe. So, politically, Europe is a fragmented world region with many small and medium sized countries that reflect its varied history of conflict and cooperation. The diversity of Europe began centuries ago when numerous people had migrated into the world region. Therefore, we know today's Europe has a variety and new cultural practices. Moving to the next section, where I will be explain about the migrations of people, consists of few cultural groups of Greeks, Celts, Romans, Germanic and Slavic people. The Greeks, Roman and Celts were the first one to inhabit Europe, then followed by the Germanic, Slavic and other peoples. First thing first, we're gonna go to the Greeks culture groups. The modern Greeks only inhabit in the southwestern corner of Europe. They were firmly established in southwestern Europe in 1000 before century, and the Greeks also contributed a lot to the sciences and humanities, as we had learned in history in our during our high school. We learned that uh, about Plato, Socrates, Archimedes, which had developed so much formula of mathematics that built the pyramids and all the science research we knew. So therefore their ideas still influence and use in way many people view the world. Moving to the Celtic peoples, which called Celts. The Celtic people occupied large areas or scales of Central and Western Europe during 850 until 450 before century. They also gave their names to the names such places as Bohemia, Gaul, the Alps, and the Rhine. The Celtics began to wane or disappear as the Romans and then later people took over many of their lands. So the reason why Celtics people had disappeared because as the Romans and other peoples had come into their lands and conquered their lands. Lastly, the remnants of their culture remain or can be found in the language and culture of the modern Welsh, Scots, Irish, and Bretons of Western France. So this figure shows the 7 nations of Celts, which consists the Ireland, Scotland, Cornwall, Isle of Man, Wales, Brittany, and Galicia. So this is their flags of their countries. Moving to the Romans, around hundreds before centuries, the Romans eclipsed the Greek city-states. So during that time, the Romans had come to the Greek city-states. and the Romans created a large empire that stretched from the eastern Mediterranean through the British Isles. The Romans also had the chance to build an extensive road system because at the time Roman is so strong and they had conquered a lot of lands. So through this figure, as you can see, there's a red lines between the states, which they built an extensive road system in reason to hold their empire together. The Romans spoke Latin and they adopted Christianity. And lastly, the persecution culminated in the Nazi Holocaust times as the reason or resulting their numbers had reduced their numbers. So the Romans had been uh, reduced because of the persecution held by the Nazi Holocaust times. Moving to the Germanic people, as this tribe continually threatened the Roman Empire, and Germanic people sacking themselves for the first time in the Anno Domini of 410. So the Anno Domini, in other words, called the Hijrah in Islam. So Germanic people arrived from the east and conquering whatever Celtic lands and the Romans had not taken yet. So through this figure, as you can see, this is the example of Germanic tribes. And Germanic tribes has three types, which is Angles, Saxons, and Jutes. By the Anno Domini of 800s, they developed a distinct Viking culture called the Vikings. As we know from the movies called the Vikings, they are the Germanic people. They were seafaring and martial people who experienced overpopulation in their home areas. So the Vikings, back on that time, they will come and they will they will live at the states where they face overpopulation in their home areas. From that case, they also recruit a lot of people to join the Vikings. Next, the modern era in Germany, the Vikings felt pressure of Christianity forces. In response, they invaded the British Isles and the northern France and sacked monasteries. The monasteries meaning their treasures or their precious belongings. Their influence ended after 1200s when the cooling climate, volcanic eruption in Iceland, and political friction caused the Greenland to die out and halve the population. So the Vikings' influence had ended after 1200s, where there's happened a cooling climate, a volcanic eruption in Iceland, and also the political friction caused the Vikings to die and make half of their population. So this figure shows the Romans and Germanic tribes had their war in Anno Domini 410, as I mentioned from the first point. Moving to the Slavs or the Slavic people. The Slavic uh, culture groups is the last major group to migrate into Europe, which they began arriving in the Anno Domini of 400s. The Slavic pushed as far west as the Elbe River in the middle of modern Germany and as far south as the Adriatic coast and into Balkan Peninsula, threatening the Greeks. The Slavic were divided into three major groups, which is called the Western Slavic, Southern Slavic, and Eastern Slavic. So the Poles, Czech, and Slovaks are the Western Slavs. Slovenes, Croats or Croatia, Serbs or Serbia and Bulgarians are become the Southern Slavs. The Russians, the Ukrainians and Belarusian are the Eastern Slavs. So finally the group far mentioned account for most of modern European people and represent diversity. So the Slavic people is uh, is mentioned account for of the most of the modern European people, and they also represent diversity. So this figure shows the wooden statues of paganism and Slavic gods. Back in that time, they worship this wooden statue as their gods.
Okay, now I will continue to present about the next subchapter for Europe, which is the rise of European global power. Okay, let's start first with the economic. The global economy is basically started with the free market or capitalist. In other words, capitalism. Capitalism is an economic system that practices whatever decision made by the individuals and corporation-owned business is to keeping their profit at the maximum, which means that decision making in the productions like what to produce and how much to produce is all in terms of hitting the profit. And next, in the late 1400s, capitalism merchants invested in trade expedition and they brought their profit back to their country in the shape of gold and silver. And as we all know that gold and silver is like money in now era. And it started at the year 1418 when the Prince of Portugal, during that time, which is Prince Henry, he established a new institution specially to teach navigation to the Portuguese sea captain. That institution is located at the Sagres, Portugal. He was hoping that by opening up that institution, they will discover a new sailing route in Africa and East, where in the East, there is a spice island that they want to take over. And during 1441, finally a ship has sailed far enough to reach the South of Sahara. The Portuguese explorer not only were taking over and control the spices, they started to treat the local people in Africa as a slavery, including the men and women both. And when this thing happens, it has opened up to other sailors, including the Portuguese sailors and even Spanish sailors, to discover and conquer the new lands in the West and Africa area. This has destroying many locals and economies and cultures in that area. And later on, the other Western European country has followed those Portuguese and Spanish steps, and this has begun a new era of colonialism and imperialism. There is a difference between colonialism and imperialism. Okay, first I will explain what is the meaning of colonialism. Colonialism, that is a practice started during the 1500 and ended around 1900 in some country, where a stronger country will conquer and rules over a less powerful or not strong country. The policy or practice acquire full or partial control over another country. It depends on the agreement agreed by the regions, and the one nation will conquer and rules over other region. While the imperialism is different in a certain way, where the ideology that drive colonialism is drive that practice during 1900s onwards. The imperialism is a policy of extending a country's power and influence through a military force or diplomacy. And it can be categorized into formal and informal imperialism, where it creating an empire to expanding it into other countries through sovereignty or indirect mechanism of control. The indirect mechanism of controls is when the colonies were ruled through existing traditional rules, and the example like the British colonies such as Nigeria, India and Burma have a limited self-rule towards their own country, and the government institutions are based on European styles but may have local rules to suit their culture. The well-known of the new sailing was made by the Christopher Columbus in 1492. He believed to found a quicker sailing route to India, but actually an American of Italian sailor, Amerigo Vespucci, already lay in his path. And at the same time too, Vasco da Gama already led the Portuguese exploration around the southern tip of Africa to India. The Portugal and Spain both gained wealth to maintain their position from colonizing in America, Africa, and parts of Asia. This action has been followed by a few countries such as French, Dutch, and British in the 1500s and 1600s. But the wars in Europe have declined and reduced the roles of the Spain and Portugal because their country have used most of their money to maintain their position in Europe. Started in 1600, the Dutch emerged as maritime power to establish with the colonies in East and West Indies. But it had now losing its territory in North America to the Britain in the year of 1660. And over the following century, the France have been lost to the Britain when a competition to get a supremacy in the North America and India. What we see the European have achieved in their culture and practices does not simply result in the spread of the European culture and practices. The European experienced many things in their travel and brought much back to the Europe that they incorporate into their culture. Anything good that they found from other country in terms of their technology or what food that the other country eat, they will implement it. The most big aspect that changed dramatically because of the exploration from the European country to other country is the aspect of the diet and food, because at the first place the European did not know about potato until they traveled to US, and the most that being affected for the food culture is the Irish, German, and Polish, because the culture will be different in terms of the food and diet. And as you all know that this country have a lot of popular food that using a potato. For example, the traditional German potato cake, which is it's called the potak, and other food which is the Dublin potato coddle. And the most familiar food that using potato is the mashed potato. Through the exploration to other countries too, the Europeans know about the cotton, tobacco, tea, and cocoa that being introduced by other countries, and it is commonly used today in our daily life. One of the important technology that being adapted from other countries is the exploration of European with the Chinese. From encounter with the Chinese, the European have learned about the technology such as the compass. The traditional compass, as you can see in the picture, is invented during the Han Dynasty in China. And how it works is the people in ancient China discovered that if a lodestone was suspended so it could turn freely, it will always point toward the magnetic poles. And also other inventions that being listed as the four great inventions from ancient China is the gunpowders, paper making, and printing. The conclusion that can be made by the exploration by the European is they were able to explore rapidly and build trading network by exploiting the Arab, Indian, and Chinese. Okay, now we will learn about what is industrial revolutions that happen in the Europe. And as you can see, the industrial revolution started when the increasing of the population growth. This you can see during the growing of trades in overseas and merchant wealth of the countries of northwestern Europe. It leads to the increasing demands for manufactured goods, and because of this, to fulfill the demand, the series of technological innovation keep on improving in the organizational changes too. Thereby, technological innovations happen. Okay, for example, when the market for clothes increases, the textile industries will also be increases. So, to fulfill the market for the clothes, the production must increase their resource in terms of the cottage. So, to fulfill the expanding market for cloth, the production from the mid-1700s for the machinery has driven from water power to the steam from coal burning. It is to increase the productivity of textile industries. The concentration of machines in factories that were soon powered by the steam from coal burning require lots of capital and number of workers. This is why it leads to the expansion of urban industrial center near the coal fields. The expansion of urban industrial also have led to the introduction of banking system and investment. The expansion of urban industrial also have making the rapid growth around the river, canal and sea as a medium transportation to assemble the raw materials to the industries so that they can distribute their products. And we can find that the huge part around the river have moving towards the railroads that connect to the coal fields. The Industrial Revolution begins in the Great Britain and they have spread across the English Channel to the Netherlands, Belgium, and then France to the western areas of Germany. And during the late 1800s and 1900s, the Industrial Revolution have diffused further to the Central and Eastern Europe and also to the other areas of the world. Okay, let's still proceed to the next chapter, which is the nationalism and world wars. As you can see, there are many movies that using the time frame during the world wars. For example, The Monuments Man, Casablanca, Patton, Pearl Harbor, and many more. So it is very interesting to learn about the world wars that happened in Europe. Basically, the nationalism grew in Europe because of the competition of capitalism. In earlier chapter, we have already learned what is capitalism, and the economic competition turned into nationalist competition. The armies that firstly created to conquer and colonize the rest of the world in Western Europeans were turned toward one another. This happened during 1914, where the war erupted between the European powers, later to be known as World War I. During that war, Germany and Austria-Hungary was defeated in 1918. The problem doesn't end here after the World War I, because during the 1920s and 1930s, the situation after the post-war has causes the economic slump. Each country were practicing protectionism, which means that they are applying the economic policy which restrict other imports from other countries through the methods such as tariff on certain products and imported goods and others government regulations. This bringing the feelings of dissatisfaction, especially among the defeated countries, because it brings hardships to millions of individuals and families to recover from the war. The nationalist competition become more worse because there are many more extreme people were opposing ideologies of fascism and communism. Fascism is a right where it using the dictatorial power, so it will force the others opposition in a strong regimentation of society and in the economy, which came to the prominence around the early of 20th century. While communism is a theory or system that the social organization in which all property is owned by the community and each person will contribute and receive according to their ability and needs. The introduction of these two extreme ideologies have led to war once again. A European war was hitting the rest of the world between the year 1939 till 1945, and this war is known as World War II. Many countries are affected by the war, and the intolerant side of nationalism under fascism has led to the extermination of millions of people of specific ethnic, especially such as the Jews and Romes, and this phenomenon is called genocide. Genocide is the killing of a large group of people, especially those of a particular nation or ethnic group, and during that time there is a campaign of genocide to kill those people. The next chapter is the Europe after 1945. After the World War II, even the winners suffered from destruction in terms of the financial, political, and cultural losses. After the war, the Europeans seriously re-evaluated their role in the world and their relationship with other countries. In Western Europe, the United Kingdom, France and the Netherlands, they were confronted with independence movement in their colonies at a time of weakness. Commonly, they will feel with the ideologies of nationalism and communism that originally came from Europe. The 4 centuries of building colonial empires on which the sun will never set ended. While it differs from the weak European countries in terms of the politics and economy, they faces US and Soviet Union to emerge together as a new world power. At the end of World War II, Soviet Union showed its strength when the Red Army moved to the East Central European and fostered the establishment of communism. For your information, the Red Army was the army under the Air Force of the Russian Soviet. The communist ideologies believed that the capitalists used their richness to manipulate government and protect their position and working class. There were 3 things that were argued by the communists. They were asking for, firstly, the democratic centralism. They believed that only Communist Party have right to govern. They will also believe that they was the only true representative of the people and to keep the capitalists and others from taking advantage of the people. That is why they were asking for the state socialism, which means the governance by the Communist Party only, which means they will control all the political, social, economic activity. The economic activity is considering that the state will own all the business and will decide what will be produced. And the capitalist practice of competing companies that producing similar product was seen as unnecessary. This is vice versa with what we learned in the early chapter, which the capitalism have right to choose what to be produced. But instead here, the state will decide that what need to be produced, not the free market for consumer that choose what they want. With the Soviet communism firmly established in the East Central Europe around the 1950s, many Europeans felt that their nationalist practices were threatened. Europeans in countries about to lose their colonies knew that if their countries were too small to compete individually with the Soviet Union and the United States. Next, the organization in Europe. There is 2 organizations in Europe, which is the NATO and secondly the European Union. Okay, first of all, the NATO is known as the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. It was formed in 1949 as an alliance of countries to protect the Western Europe from a potential military operation that launched by the Soviet Union. The immediate cooperation came about in the non-companies, which is the Western, Northern and Mediterranean Europe. To form a stronger organization in the NATO included US to against the Soviet, while the Soviet dominating the East Central Europe to form an alliance to support them. Finally, by 1991, the Soviet Union finally collapsed and it have ended the Cold War between the countries. And after the breakup of the Soviet Union, people started to question why the need for NATO anymore, but others still fear that Russia will eventually become a strong power again, although the Soviet Union that is no longer existed and the current situation for Russia is weak. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, the East Central European countries were eager to join the NATO, although they having emerged from more than 40 years with the Soviet domination. Because of the cost of expansion, the NATO has delayed their expansion. But later, NATO has accepted Poland, the Czech Republic, and Hungary as the new members, and they are still considering other countries. But in 2002, NATO has formed a partnership with Russia. Many people were against when the NATO formed a partnership. After the post-Cold War, NATO is changing and more focused on resolving or policing dispute within the expanded Europe and its immediate neighbors, as in Bosnia, Kosovo, and Macedonia. There are many functions for the existence of NATO organization. Firstly, NATO was formed to protect the freedom of its members. When the members in the NATO organization were being abused by its freedom, they were being protected by the political and military safeguard that were formed in the security for the NATOs. The key is security in our daily life is key to our well-being. Secondly, the NATO function is to defend its member states against the aggression or the threat of aggressions. When one of the country in the NATO organization is being threatened, other members also in the organization will help the country that been threatened, because the principle states that an attack against all or several members will be considered attack against all. One country might not be strong, but a few countries that help each other will make them stronger. The third function for NATO is NATO stands for peace and equality for all. The next function is NATO expanded its role to include the war on terrorism after 9/11 terrorist attack. This shows that NATO were banning any form of terrorism that trying to threat their members. Lastly, the function of NATO is NATO will act as a lighthouse during dangers. It is an ever-changing organization that continually pushing for growth, unity, and change. We can say that NATO will act as a protection if anything happen towards the members in the NATO. So the members of the country will not feel like they were alone. They will be helped by others. These are all the 29 countries that join NATO organization. The first 12 members that joined the NATO organization during 1949 is Belgium, Canada, Denmark, France, Iceland, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, UK and US. And the last members for now that joined NATO organization is Montenegro on 2017. And here also attached the 29 flag states of the NATO organization members. The next organization in the Europe is the European Union. To compete successfully again in the world economy over the long run, Europeans in the non-communist country created the European Economic Community, or called as EEC. It is also known today as the European Union. Not long after the end of World War II, Belgium, Netherlands and Luxembourg joined together in the Benelux Custom Union. And in 1952, the Benelux country joined France, West Germany to form the European Coal and Steel Community that called ECSC. By 1957, the 5 ECSC countries plus Italy has signed the Treaty of Rome, establishing the European Economic Community called EEC. The function of EEC is to create the common market in goods, capital, people, services, and move freely between countries. And started in 1967, EEC have changed their name to European Community, or called EC, to emphasize the move from economic toward the political goals. In 1973, Denmark, Ireland and UK have become the members of European Union, and it followed by the Greece country in 1981 and Portugal and Spain on 1986. By then, the European Parliament with elected members from all these countries. It was created and located in Strasbourg, France. It forms the legislative branch of the EU along with the Council of the European Union, or is known as the Council of Ministers. The President for the Council of Ministers will rotate every 6 months among representatives from each of the EU's member countries, and other EU organs are headquartered in countries such as Luxembourg. The Single European Act signed in 1986 when Spain and Portugal joined the European Union to set out the steps needed to implement in a single market. While in 1991, the Treaty of Maastricht attempted to set a timetable for monetary and political union and changed the name organization to European Union in 1993. And during 1955, Austria, Sweden and Finland joined together in European Union. The Swiss and Norwegian referendum votes on joining closed but was rejected because Swiss did not want to give up their tradition of neutrality. In 2004, 10 more countries of the East Central Europe joined the EU. The countries mostly is from the Soviet bloc. And Bulgaria and Romania also joined European Union in 2007. The European Union represents yet another idea of emanating from Europe, which is the supranationalism. Supranationalism is the idea that differing nations and can cooperate closely to their mutual benefit. When they can cooperate closely together, so they can share the same government, also economy, including the same currency, which is the euro, the social policy, and also the same military. But during the Cold War, Soviet communists tried to offer supranationalism, but most Europeans thus abandoned the communist experiment. There is still members of European Union who considering the idea, but it shows that the nationalist idea is more predominant. Considering that the more predominant nationalist idea subscribed to by most of the world hold that such cooperation is impossible between the nation, but nationalism may still preclude total the political union. And it remains to be seen if supranationalism will work. The combination of NATO security in the Cold War and linked economic policies enabled the Europe by the later in 1900s to regain a major place within the global economic and political system. For example, if European countries have many of the highest GDP per capita in the world. Okay, now we have finished to cover the history and culture of Europe. The next chapter is the subregion in Europe. Europe contains of 4 different regions, which is the Western, the Northern, the Mediterranean, and lastly the East Central Europe. The Western European countries have been most significant in creating the Euro image as a global leader, and they were also ranked as the human environmental of this region ranked highest in the health, education, and income standards, with all countries ranking within the top 20 on the Human Development Index. And that's why the European Union helped many Western European countries to maintain and even increase their economic and political standing in the world compared to other sub-regions. And here is some of the attraction that located in one of the country in the Western Europe, which I choose the Switzerland. Switzerland is such a beautiful country with a perfect scenery, and it was actually my personal favorite place to visit in future. Among the activities that can be done in Switzerland is hiking, paragliding, and skiing. Also skydiving with the background scenery of the mountain. This figure shows the countries in the Western Europe and the location on the map. The Western Europe countries of the sub-region include the Scotland, Ireland, Wales, Southwest England, and Brittany in the northwest of France. There are 9 countries located in the western of Europe, and the first one is Austria. The official language that's spoken in Austria is German. Next is Belgium, where they speak Dutch, and in France, the official language is French. In Germany, they speak German, and in the Republic of Ireland, the official language that been spoken in English, and in Luxembourg, the language speak is Luxembourgish. In Netherlands, they speak Dutch, while in United Kingdom, English is the official language, and lastly is Switzerland, where they speak German as the official language. Okay, let's proceed to the academic activities in Western Europe. The Western Europe is remain as the focus of academic because all the manufacturing job in the region consists of 60 to 75% of research and development towards the applies of the new technology. And the type of product that been chosen is the sophisticated manufacturing. The difference between a normal manufacturing is sophisticated manufacturing more focused to like something high-end products, and the industry that contained in the sophisticated manufacturing is one of it is the automobile industry is producing and selling the self-powered vehicles that including the passenger car, trucks, or other commercial vehicles. And in Germany, there is a city that being known as the manufacturing hub that located in Stuttgart, then Baden-Württemberg. One of the company that located in Stuttgart is the Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz is one of the most popular German global automobile car that is very known for their luxury vehicles, and including vans, trucks, also buses, coaches, and also ambulance. The company was founded in 1926 by the founder, which is the Karl Benz. Other than the HQ that's situated in Stuttgart, Germany, they have also a showroom that more likely to be called a car museum for the Mercedes-Benz. And also attached in the slides is the Mercedes-Benz C-Class model, and this is one of the top favorite sedan. And the top reason to buy this model is because it have a secure and reliable brakes, and also having a very cozy interior, and they have the easy to use features, and also high quality materials. And others additional information that I found interesting compared to other cars in the same automobile industry is the Mercedes-Benz cars are not painted but drawn in an anti-corrosion coating. And the next economic activities in Western Europe is the service industries, and the type of service that I choose is the producer service. And the producer service are involved in the output of goods and services, including the insurance, which is the industry that I choose is under financial services. And in Western Europe, one of the location for industry services is in Paris, France. And the company that I found that offer the financial services is the ASA Group. The ASA is a French multinational insurance firm that headquartered in the Paris. It engaged in many global insurance, investment management, and also financial services. And what I found interesting that can be put in the additional information is the company name, which is the ASA Group, is not actually an acronym or short form, but the name was chosen because it can be pronounced very easily by people who can speak any language. And especially because of the company is based in French, the French people have tendency to speak a certain words with a slang. And lastly, the economic activities in Western Europe is the services, which is mining. The industry that fall over under mining is under natural resources. Mining is a process of extracting useful minerals from the surface of the earth, and including the sea also. A mineral, with a few exceptions, is an inorganic substance. And the economic activities of mining can be found in the Louvain-la-Neuve in Belgium. And this city in Belgium is located 30 kilometers to the southeast of Brussels, and most of the people living here is French speaking. And one of the company that offer the service for mining is Carmeuse. Carmeuse is a Belgian mining company which produce lime and limestone. The Carmeuse Group has a production facilities in Europe, and the company have total number of employees is 4,000. And the additional information is Carmeuse started before this as a small family-run business, which is 160 years back. But now it is a very big company, which I say that it contains of 4,000 employees. And in the slides there is one of the quarry that owned by the company.
Hello, so back with me, Shafi Lan, and I will be explain about the Northern Europe. So this is the image of Albania's northern mountain. It's so pretty. I wish I can go there sometime after the COVID-19. So this is the map of Northern Europe. As you can see, the colored region is the part of Northern Europe. The list of countries I will explain on the next slide. I want to clarify that the Northern Europe plays between the North Sea and the Baltic Sea, also the north of Atlantic Ocean. So this is the list of countries in Northern Europe. We have Denmark, Finland, Norway, Iceland, Greenland, Faroe Islands, and Sweden. So these seven is the countries in Northern Europe. Furthermore, I will explain about the economic activities in Northern Europe. So firstly, for the manufacturing industry, we have the Ericsson company. The location of Ericsson company is at the Stockholm, Sweden, and the name of the product is mobile phones and fixed broadband network service. So this is the logo of Ericsson company, and this is the product of Ericsson, which they had a collaboration with Sony to produce the Sony Ericsson mobile phone, which is so famous in the year of 2000. Uh, I once had this phone, but it's already broken and cannot be fixed. So, lastly, the additional information I want to tell you that Ericsson company was founded 144 years ago, which is in 1876. So the Ericsson company not only produce mobile phone as we know, but it also has a network service. So I read one article that the Ericsson might be collaborate with Nokia to produce the 5G network connection. It just rumors. We don't know it could be true or not, but it will be interesting. Next is the manufacturing industry also in Northern Europe, which is Bang& and Olufsen. The Bang& Olufsen are located in Struer, Denmark, and this company produces high-end audio such as speakers, other gadgets, so headphones, and this uh, this particular brand is so expensive. Uh, it I once surveyed at the KLCC, and the headphones starting price at 1,400 ringgit. The the Bang& and Olufsen company also had a collaboration with HP laptop, which I know Sir Shazi had a HP laptop, and there's a Bang& and Olufsen stated at his laptop. So this is the logo of the company, and this is an example of Bang& & Olufsen headphones. This is a really high quality headphone, as you can see from the image. They use a leather to cover and make sure the quality of the product. So lastly, the additional information, the company Bang & Olufsen will suffer a huge setback towards the end of World War II when its factory at Jimsing in Struer in northwestern Jutland uh, uh, was burned down by the pro-Nazi saboteurs as punishment for the management refusal to collaborate with Germans. So the factory of Bang& & Olufsen once had been burned down by the pro-Nazi saboteurs as the punishment or revenge for the company not to collaborate with the Germans. Finally, in the mining industry, there's a company called Equinor Petroleum, which been known before as Statoil Petroleum Company, and the company located in Stavanger, Norway, and the company produces oil and gas, also renewable energy. So this is the logo of the company before it's called Statoil, and after renewed they call Equinor. And this is the diagram shows the oil field in Northern Sea, where I read this particular oil field costs 5 million euro, Once you look at it, you might think it's a mall because it's so bright with lights. But again, you see it's a oil field, not mall. Uh, Additional information about this particular company is that Equinor Petroleum Company was formed by the merging of two oil and gas company, which is Statoil and Nox Hydro in 2007. Sorry.
Explaining about the Mediterranean Europe. So what is the country in Mediterranean Europe and where it is located and what the economic activities in Mediterranean Europe. So this is the image from Rome, Italy, which is the place that I really wanted to go. Okay, next, this is the map Mediterranean Europe. As you can see, there is many countries in this map, but there are only 4 countries that are in the categories of Mediterranean Europe, which is Portugal, Spain, Italy, and Greece. Next, so this is the list of countries in Mediterranean Europe. So they are divided into 2 countries, which is largest countries and small countries. The largest countries is Spain, Portugal, Greece, and Italy. And the small countries is Andorra, Monaco, Malta, San Marino, and Vatican City. I think Spain has the most or highest victim of COVID-19 and followed by Italy and Portugal and Greece. The first economic activities in Mediterranean Europe. So agriculture is the first economic activities in Mediterranean Europe. Agriculture is very important to the Mediterranean countries such as Spain, Greece, Italy, and Portugal. The warm, cool winters and dry summers that seldom drop below freezing allow the Mediterranean countries to produce crops that are difficult to grow in the other subregion of Europe, such as olives, table and wine grapes, citrus fruits, figs, and many more. So, Spain is famous in producing olive. So, Acetes Vallejo is the name of the company that produces olive. The company is located in the Torre don Jimeno, Spain. So, about 35% of Spain's farm workers work on the olive plantation. Okay, so this is the Acetes Vallejo logo company and some example of olive oil that the company produce. Okay, the second economic activities in Mediterranean Europe is tourism. The Mediterranean's warm climate, sunny beaches, and historic centers attract the tourists. So, the Mediterranean countries making a tourism as a major industry. A company that making a tourism is Busabout. This company can bring the tourists visit to Spain and Greece. In addition, Pico de Tede on the Mediterranean island of Tenerife is the highest point in Spain at 3,719 meters. Each year, Portugal and Greece each receive about 12 to 30 million tourists, but Italy and Spain each receive more than those 2 countries, which receive about 40 to 50 million tourists per year. So you can see this is the logo of Busabout company. And this is the Pico de Tede mountain. Okay, the last economic activities in Mediterranean Europe is transportation and telecommunication. Rail transport in Greece has a history which began in 1869 with the completion of the Athens and Piraeus Railway, with part of it also becoming the second oldest underground metro system in the world. The running of the Greek is split between the companies named Hellenic Railway Organization OSE, which owns and maintains the infrastructure. So the Hellenic Railways organization is located in Athens, Greece. So in the first railway line that operated in Greece was the one connecting the Athens and Piraeus, which opened in 1869. So this is the Hellenic Railways organization logo, and this is the Hellenic train in Greece. That's all.
Hello, I will be explain now about the East Central Europe. So first, we're gonna look at the map of East Central Europe. So this is the map of East Central Europe. The list of the countries in East Central Europe consists of the Baltics, which is the Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania states or country. And then we have Poland, the Czech and Slovaks Republic, Hungary, Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia Herzegovina, Serbia, Montenegro, Macedonia, Albania, Romania, and Bulgaria. So remember there is 13 countries in East Central Europe. Then later we're gonna cover about the economic activities of East Central Europe. So first, about the manufacturing industry, we have the company Skoda, and the location of Skoda is at Mlada Boleslav, Czech Republic. So Skoda is from Czech Republic, and there is a sub product which is a Volkswagen and Peugeot. So this is the logo of the company Skoda, and this is their newest product, which is the 2020 car model from Skoda. It's called Skoda Vision 4. And then the additional information, which quite interesting for me, in 2015, the Volkswagen is under Skoda admitted that it had installed a pollution cheating software in many of its cars to fool the regulators that its car meets emission standards, when in fact they had polluted at much higher level than government standards. So the Volkswagen had planted or installed pollution cheating software in many of its cars to fool the regulators. So the regulators, in other words, in Malaysia we know as the Puspakom or the JPJ. So they installed this pollution cheating software in 2015, which led to much more pollution, higher level pollution than the government standards. So the Skoda company stated that Volkswagen could recall and cover refitting costs for all the cars had been affected by the Volkswagen testimonial emission scandal. So this is the newest scandal from Volkswagen company under the Skoda in 2015. The scandal about the pollution cheating software. Next is about another manufacturing industry in East Central Europe, which is beer exports, called the company Pilsner company. The Pilsner company located at Pilsen, Czech Republic, and the most famous product called the Leaf of Pils beer. And this is their official logo of Pilsner company, Pilsner Urquell. This is the figure shows some of their product of beer. There's a lot of beer, variety of them. You can search for them. There's tons of product, but this Leaf of Pils is the best product of Pilsner. In additional information about business company in Iceland, due to the restriction of alcohol sales to the government-owned liquor store, a beverage is sold at grocery store labeled as Pilsner, but it is a lower alcohol beer legally below 2.5% and allowed for sale at restaurants and bars. So particularly in Iceland, due to the restriction of alcohol sales in that country, also in the government-owned liquor store, uh, specifically for Pilsner beers brand, uh, they had to face the restriction of alcohol. So they come up with a new product which has a much lower alcohol percentage that then their beers can be sold at the Iceland, which is below than 2.5% of alcohol. Usually, alcohol is much more than 2.5%. I think it's about 5 to 7. But in Iceland, due to the restriction, they have to follow their rules and regulation, and they come up with a much more lower beer, which has a below 2.5% of alcohol. We're moving on to the mining industry, which is Alp Petrol. Alp Petrol, located at the Albania, Patus Albania, and of course their product is petroleum. So this is the logo of the company of Alp Petrol, and this figure shows the Penin Petroleum Corporation on oil exploration in Albania. So Penin Petroleum is under the Alp Petrol or the subcontractor. They had collaboration with Albania so that they can explore a lot more oil field in Albania. This is the machine they use to explore oil. So there additional information since 1918, more than 5,650 oil and gas wells have been drilled in Albania. 5 natural gas wells have been drilled, with 255 producing natural gas, and 5 oil fields which have 4,728 oil wells. So there we can, from the information given, since 1918, there is more than 5,600 oil and gas wells. So it is more than 102 years now. 102 years now. So there might be more than 6,000 gas wells have been drilled. So we can learn that Albania is a country filled with petroleum.
Okay, that's all from us. Thank you for listening. So if you guys don't understand, you can ask the question in the Telegram group. Remember, during this RMO, don't forget to wear mask when you go outside. Okay?
Okay guys, thank you for watching, and that's it for the Europe video. And I would like to thank to Sushazi for all the teaching, and I hope this video really helps my friend for understanding the Europe. And for you guys, always stay at home and be healthy, and if you are going out, don't forget to wear mask and always wash your hands. And that's it, bye.
Hello vlog, welcome to my guys. So thank you for viewing our video of Europe, and I would like to thank Sir Shazi for guiding us through doing the presentation slides. really helpful, and I wish all of you will always stay healthy and stay at home. Okay. Bye. Nak kena pergi kedai beli santan. Nanti tak jadi pula mak nak buat kuih tiaw kan.
Tiba.